Julia from Vulva Voce. We are playing the Loud Women Fest on the 16th of September, 2023. We can't wait to see you there. Because in classical music, for so long, there's been so many female composers that haven't had their music properly heard the way that they should have. So we're trying to, we dive deep into female composers from different times and try to give their music the performances that they deserve. And our second mission is to bring classical music to a wider audience and a more inclusive audience. The music that we're going to play is not exclusively classical. We play a lot of sort of folk-inspired, jazz-inspired music. So you'll hear a big variety of stuff, but we also have a few classical favorites. One, especially from the two songs from the 1500s that are pretty cool and were written by the first woman to have music published ever. So a really wide spectrum of women that we try to promote in the music we play. So the first one that I just mentioned, who was writing these, they're called madrigals. They're a type of Renaissance song. And they have really cool sort of juicy harmonies and sound very sort of peaceful, religious. And the person who wrote those was, she was an Italian composer called Maddalena Casulana, and she played the lute. She sang, she composed, and just a very cool woman. And already back then, she was writing to sort of members of like sort of the aristocracy back then about how women composers, there shouldn't be any difference between female composers and male composers. So already back then, those thought processes were happening. And I guess another very important historical figure is a Black American composer called Florence Price. She was the first woman to ever have a symphony, the first Black woman to ever have a symphony performed by a major orchestra in the US, and that was in 1933. And it's sort of unimaginable to think of the barriers that that she had to overcome back then. And it's actually very exciting at the moment because Florence Price is having a big sort of musical renaissance at the moment. So definitely go and have a listen to some of her stuff. Unfortunately, it's sort of weird because I've been playing the violin and playing classical music since I was 5 years old, and it wasn't until I was in my 20s and sort of made an active decision to play a piece written by a woman. So I've sort of been playing for the last 20 years just music written by men, not even really thinking about it. So it's very special to sort of dive in deep and to see that actually women have been writing music, composing music, playing music ever since. There's another very cool composer called Hildegard von Bingen, who is from the 11th century. So already back then, she was writing sort of religious music for nuns. And there's been a lot of nuns throughout history writing music because they were in a position where it was just women around. So it's important to remember that throughout history, women's voices have been heard through their own pieces, and they've unfortunately been lost throughout history, but we are working hard to bring them back. Basically, what we try to do as Vulva Voce when we perform is kind of think of ourselves a little bit more as a band rather than as classical musicians exclusively. So we sort of play a lot with genre, and a lot of the music that you're going to be hearing on Saturday has very sort of strong grooves, strong rhythms, and you'll see us sort of grooving and dancing along, which is very fun. And yeah, another thing which I just love about classical music is just the juicy, luscious harmonies. And there's 4 of us, and we'll be bringing all those wonderful string harmonies to you on Saturday. And the other thing is that we actively choose to, like every band, instead of orchestra, most orchestras that play with the sheet music in front of them, we play without music, which allows us to fully interact with the audience and interact with each other. Everyone always says that we're always, whenever we're playing, it looks like we're sort of having a playing a game with each other and sort of smiling, having fun. So we just want the audience to have as enjoyable and exciting experience as possible. I mean, we just want to create the kind of music that we ourselves would love to listen to. And all four of us have music tastes sort of far beyond classical. And you'll definitely hear that in the music that we've written. And we just when actually, so we have a one of the pieces that we wrote ourselves. We sort of just started with a jam session at my friend Nadia's house, who's in the group, and we just sort of started jamming. She'd come up with this little riff once where when when we were on the way back from a gig on the train, and she was like, "Guys, I just want to try this out," and then we just ended up jamming to that riff, and it ended up sounding really cool. So we'd recorded that, thankfully, and then just went from there. So there's a lot of groove, there's a lot of folky elements in the music we write. And we just want people to get up and dance and have a good time. And we love to play sort of venues that people don't associate with classical music. So just 2 days ago, we played a gig in a pub in Soho, which was great. And we've done sort of open mics in bars and venues that people really don't expect to have a string quartet. So as much as it's cool we're really excited that you guys sort of took the leap and included us in the bill, which we're kind of um, a bit contrasting to a lot of your other acts, which we think is fantastic. So we're really grateful that we get to be included and be, even without amplification, be as loud as we possibly can. Play a little melodic snippet from a piece that we play by Florence Price, who I mentioned earlier. Um, this is from a movement that's very sort of jazzy and groovy. It's called Juba. So here comes a little melody from that.